Hello and welcome to the inaugural broadcast of the Pillarfield Pauper League. I am your host, Ram, or Sephiroth RR, and with me I have my lovely assistant.
As he glares at Ram real quick. My name's Troy. My tag will be way too tall or way too tall for too long. You'll see it a couple different ways.
So, just a little bit about the Pillarfield Pauper League. Pillarfield is sort of a quote-unquote organization of four guys. We played Magic for years, and about a year ago on MTGO we got into Pauper. It's a pretty amusing format. And 6 months ago, we started playing competitively, just, on and off. And recently, we've been watching a lot of Vintage Super League, and we thought that was super fun, that we should do something like that. That'd be really cool. But Vintage is a little harder to get into, so we thought, well, why not Pauper? That's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So, thus the format was born. So today, we have week one of our 12-match league.
We're going to go ahead and see Jordan as Sixsmith playing Robert as Eldrazi Lackey.
And so we're just going to go ahead and go right into that. Alright, so let's look at the decks here this week. So we have Jordan's deck here. It's a pretty, what come to be a pretty standard mono black list. It's got a lot of creature removal and a lot of discard, which is the fashion back in the day, but now less so.
I prefer my mono black list with more discard, but I can see why it's moving towards more of the creature removal just to control the board instead of keep them down on resources in hand.
I personally am a fan of running all the duress in the main board, but I know many people dislike this.
It's an interesting idea, but you run into the issue of like when you're going against those heavy base creature decks like Stompy or White Weenies. I think is another one that'll run it.
So So he's running Disfigure instead of Deadweight, which I know was the subject of a discussion that we had off camera. But
so the Disfigure is a instant speed -2/-2. You should be able to see it if we pull it up. And the Deadweight is a enchantment -2/-2 that'll stick around. It's a lot better against Stompy, those style of decks. The Disfigure is nice because it can come in at instant speed, so it can surprise your opponent. Then make them have an answer for that. But it's, I don't know. I prefer the Disfigures, but I know there's a lot of arguments.
I like the Disfigure, but I know right now the meta is shifting more towards the Deadweights. So up on the top end of this curve here, we see your standard package here for Gray Merchants. Only 2 Anglers. I usually like to see more than 2 Anglers. I think they're one of the strongest finishers that this deck has. But I can also see the argument of you don't want a handful of Anglers you can't cast if you don't have enough stuff in your graveyard to get them out.
That's very true. Not to mention the fact that they are a relatively newer card to the deck. I think besides the Anglers, your newest card you're seeing is Gary. So people are still trying to figure out where the Anglers slot in. How many is a good number? How many is just going to be cards stuck in your hand? Yeah.
So over in the sideboard, we have the traditional. You have your 4 Duresses. We got 2 Wrench Mine, so there's a discard.
Another copy of Corrupt Rats to clean up a little more if they need it.
Yeah, and then you have your finishers. You have your Corrupt in the sideboard.
Yeah, Corrupt is going to come in a lot more in the longer games. So if you're worried about, you're more worried about fast decks beating you with as mono black. So if you're going against a deck that goes even longer than you, that would be like blue black control is a great example. They try and go for really late game. That's where the Corrupts come in handy a lot.
Yeah. So let's go over here and look at Robert's deck, which is here. Here we got another fairly standard, fairly conservative week 1 choice. He's going with the mono blue control here.
Yeah, the mono blue. It's been shifting out of favor slowly for mono black, but we'll see how long that lasts. If we look at starting the 1-drops, we got the classic 4 Delvers. Piracy Charm's kind of interesting. Not a normal card you'll see in the main. And if you do see one, you tend to see 1 or 2 of them, not just a single Piracy Charm. They're pretty versatile, so I can see that, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm a fan of that.
Yeah. The 2, you guys Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain, your standard stuff, Bone Splitter.
Yep. Come over here. Cloud of Fairy is a classic, and then oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so Robert here decided he's going to throw money at the tournament until he wins it.
Yeah, so we've got 2 days sitting in the main board. For those of you that aren't really familiar with the Pauper on MTGO, Days is a roughly $20 card right now, so that's that significantly increases the price of the deck.
Definitely flies in the face of everything that Pauper is supposed to stand for.
Yeah, but that can definitely surprise Jordan in this upcoming game. If he's not expecting it, it'll be a real tempo killer.
Yeah.
Countering something like a turn 2 Kumbaj Witch that would be able to control Robert's fairies.
Yeah.
So keep going through. We got 4 counter spells, 2 of the Frostburn Weirds, which is a newer addition. They stand up great against Stompy, those kind of green decks that are very creature-based.
Anyone really attacking with creatures on the ground is going to have trouble with the Frostburn Weird. I'd like to make a special note of the 2 counter spells of different arts. This man can shell out $40 for daisies, but can't get 4 matching counter spells.
I have the same style in mine. I'm sure if you look, 2 of those counter spells are the Jace art, which look really cool. So definitely worth it. All right, so then going to the last of the deck. One more interesting note: only 1 gush in the main.
Yeah, I like having the second gush. I think it's just too good to be able to draw cards for free.
Yeah, free spells are good from what I've heard.
Especially when this deck, you're not spending, generally speaking, you're not spending more than 2 mana to cast any single spell. Ninja of the Deep Hour is almost never going to be hard cast. Spire Golem should never cast that much anyway. So
yeah, it's always going to be cast for maybe 3 if you're tapping out because you're sure you don't need a counter, but most of the time only 2 mana. Yeah. So being able to bounce those 2 extra lands and then replay them for mana can be really useful.
Yeah. So over here on the sideboard, we're looking at a pretty standard, blue sideboard. You got your Coral Nance, got your Dispels, Hydroblast, 3 some cards there to deal with resolve permanents.
Yep, 2 Boomerangs, an Echoing Truth, Fade Away, 2 Stormbound Geist, which could come in useful against mono black, just because they have that Undying clause on them. So any kind of sack outlets are great creature to sack to that.
Yeah, and then 2 Cursed Chains isn't going to be super relevant in this matchup.
Yeah, as long as Jordan doesn't get too many creatures on board, the Cursed Chains isn't going to be worth it.
So looking at this matchup, I kind of based on like the current sort of flavor of this mono black deck with a lot of the creature removal, I don't know. I feel like it's pretty close.
I feel it's close. See, the big thing is Robert's going to be countering any kind of
big finisher, right?
Big finishers, but also he's going to be having to control those not those crypt rats, those chittering rats that are coming in. The big cards Robert can be blown out by, I think, is crypt rats, because if he starts getting a wide board with a couple Clouded Fairies. Maybe laying a Delver down. A Crypt Rats can take that out really quick if it's resolved.
Yeah. I don't know. I really like so coming in after the sideboard, I think the Duress will do a lot of work and get some of the counter spells out. Even like Bone Splitter, which is a huge card for mono blue with all those 1/1 flyers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Duresses, and they can also be counter spell bait or take out counter spells that would be killing off that would be countering their big drops like Gary. But yeah, we'll probably see. I don't know. I think the few Duresses would come in. I think the Disfigures are going to stay in the side as well as the Death Denied. But I guess we'll have to go to the games and see how that turns out.
And so I think our players are ready to go. So we'll go ahead and get started then.